Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Welcome to the sixth trick, which is a 12-bar blues study in the key of E, in which we're going to examine how to use the interval of a sixth. It's a kind of a funky little sound, this. It can be used for lead guitar, it can be used as kind of rhythm guitar for that kind of nice little filly thing that you've got within a rhythm guitar part where you kind of highlight a little bit of a melodic idea. It's a very, very cool trick. I think that a great way of learning this is to learn a study, which is a specific use of this, which you can download the tab, by the way. If you head on over to the website, there'll be a link below for registered users. There's a guitar profile and a PDF file, which you'll probably find very helpful while you're learning this. As well as the actual study, I'm going to explain kind of how it works, what a sixth is, and how you might approach improvising with it. Because, to be honest, that's mostly what I do, is improvising with it. This kind of arrangement was me improvising until I found a sort of thing that I thought might work as a kind of as a study to learn how to do it. So what is the interval of a sixth? Well, I'm very glad you asked. It is 6 steps around the major scale. So if we did it in the key of C, keeping it simple, no sharps and flats, C, D, E, F, G, A. That would be a sixth, because it's 6 steps away. But it could actually have been off any of the scale degrees in the key of C. We could have started on the third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that case, it's a minor sixth interval. The other one's a major sixth interval. I'm not going to go too much into the complexities of that. But where it gets really funky for blues playing is that we have a sixth between the major third and the root. Now, what I mean by that is that if we start, let's do it in the key of E, which is the study that we're working on here. If we go from the third of the chord in the key, just if you played a regular E chord, E major chord, the third of the chord, the third note in the E major scale is the note here, G sharp. If we count up 6 from that, up the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we get to the E. So we've got actually, you could think of it as an E and a C sharp, but we're inverting it. So we're playing C sharp and then the E. So that's the interval of a sixth. So if we move both of those notes up by 1 scale step, the G sharp would become an A and the E would become an F sharp. If we move those again up 1 scale step, the A would become a B and the F sharp would become a G sharp. Now this is also cool because this is actually now the 5th and the 3rd of the E chord. So this would be, you could make a shape like this. This would be like a D shape. If we had, there's a D chord, D sharp, there's E. You can see that they're chord tones. Okay, the notes in an E major chord are E, G sharp, and B. Okay, the root, third, and the 5th. There's a G sharp, there's an E. We step up 1 scale degree. We get these 2 notes, the A and the F sharp. Up again, and we get the B and the G sharp. These are both, these notes and these notes are chord tones of an E major chord. The step works really lovely, but because this shape is the same here and they're a tone apart, it sounds cool to step up chromatically between them. So, okay, just first finger. I'm playing the bass note here so you can hear the harmony. You don't necessarily need to have that bass note, as we'll talk about a little bit more later, but I'll leave it in for now. First finger, first fret, third string, and the open thinner string. I'm using my first finger and my ring finger to play those 2 notes, but you could use really whatever fingering you liked, and you can play it with a pick. It's a little bit more complicated, but I'd recommend starting with fingerstyle. Then both, I'm using now here my 3rd and 4th fingers for those 2. But some people prefer to use their 2nd and 3rd fingers, and that's cool too. There are advantages and disadvantages with both concepts. So you probably long term you want to get hip with both of them. But again, a starting point, I would use 3rd and 4th fingers for a bunch of reasons. And it goes up and down. You can really improvise with it. Now, again, I was adding in a continuous bass note thing, which we're going to be looking at in this study. But you don't have to be doing that. Definitely if you're improvising in a lead context. You don't have to be having this bass thing. That's just it's a fun thing, I think, as a study to be able to do that. It works then as a piece that you can kind of play on your own while you're learning how to use the sixths. Now, this was the key of E. Okay, so I would definitely recommend spending a bit of time just being able to play that first of all before you go any further. But now we're going to do the same thing on an A. Now, this thinnest string was the note E. So if we play the note A with the first finger, second finger will go on the C sharp. This is the same kind of relationship as we had with the E. But now you can see clearly here if I play an A bar chord, what looks like an F if you're a beginner, but up on the 5th fret. The second finger is already in place, and then we've got that root note. And this is how we want to learn to see this. This is our map, is looking where our root note is with the first finger. You've got that same shape again. First and second fingers, then third and fourth fingers go down 1 fret higher than where your second finger is now. That steps up a semitone, and again, back if you want, and then back to first and second finger. So that would be a really useful thing really good thing to practice on its own or without the step. If you want to get into it, you can add that bass note, the open 5th string. We'll talk a little bit more about the set piece. I'm just trying to show you the concept first of all. A really cool thing about this is that it also moves over onto the 2nd and 4th string. So this pattern, that's an A. If we move that same shape up a string, up toward the ceiling, so first finger is now on the 2nd string and the second finger is now on the 4th string. This is actually an E one again. Same notes, same shape. It's a really, really cool idea that shape is so movable. All you need to know is the placement of that first finger. If you know how to place that first finger, you're off and you've found the right key. Now, the other chord in a 12-bar blues in the key of E is a B7. So where do you think you put your first finger if you wanted to play a B7, the riff for this? So it was open for the E. Then we wanted to find the E, like the root note on the thinner string. So there was the A. So if we want B, it's 1 tone higher. Oop. Never been good at getting that thumb over to play that. Or doing. See, if I was John Mayer and I had his hands, I'd be able to do that easy, but I'm not. At the 7th fret, A, E, B. We've actually got that same movement there for the B as well. Here's the E. If we move everything up a string, just don't have that low bass note. You can kind of do it, but it's a little bit more awkward. But you get the idea. This shape moves around, and it's definitely one that I'd recommend that you spend a little bit of time with improvising after you've learned the set piece, which we're going to look at now. Let's break this down into little chunks, starting off with the intro. It goes like this. So we're starting with the 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, little finger in the 4th fret of the thinner string. And you're going to play there with my 1st finger, the 3rd string, and then with my ring finger, the thinner string, and then back to the 3rd string. Then we move that whole shape down 1 fret. Same thing again. Move it down another fret. Then 1st finger is going to go down in the 1st fret of the 3rd string, and you're going to play 1st and 3rd strings together. Starts on beat 2, so we've got 1, 2, triplet, 3, triplet, 4, triplet. triplet, 1. Okay, really important that you get that they're starting on beat 2. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. It's really, really important that it's starting on beat 2, otherwise it's all going to feel wonky. Now, once you got to here, this is on beat 1. Third finger is going down on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, little finger is going down 2nd fret of the 2nd string. And that's just doing little chromatic steps up from the 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret. So 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So on beat 3, first finger is going down on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, which is the note B. And then we've got the 2nd finger going down the 3rd fret of the thicker string. This is just a kind of a stepping note, really, heading down to the E. So that intro nice and slow, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And we're at the beginning of the 12-bar sequence, starting off with the E chord. So we're going to do the step up. And what's really important now is realizing that we're going to keep the thumb moving on the beat all of the way through the 12-bar. Okay, well, almost all of the way through the 12-bar. We're changing a little bit last 4 bars of the sequence. But generally speaking, what we're after is this consistent thumb. So what I'd recommend first is that you learn the pattern with the fingers, with the left hand. You make sure you know what that is, and then we look at which are the notes that go with the thumb and which are the ones that go between the thumb pulses. Okay, so at the very beginning, okay, we know this pattern. It's the reverse of what we did for the intro, but reversed. All together. So I'm just grabbing there with my first finger and my third finger. They're playing at the same time. Okay, my verdi finger, my driving finger, is not playing anything. Okay? But what we're after here is playing the bass note. Now I'm using a little bit of palm mute as well, so I'm resting the heel of my hand just to get a bit of a thud on there. Okay, if I leave it off, it gets a bit bold, so I want it to be a little bit more subdued. You don't want too much, like that, it'll just click. Okay, just like we might have done with palm muting for rock power chords. You want to find that place where it's muted, but it's not too much and not too little. The Goldilocks amount for palm mute is what we're after. And we're going to play the chord first of all. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Just that bar. That's how you want to think of it. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Thumb's going to go on each of the beats. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And I just spend quite a bit of chunk of time just on getting used to this idea. 1 and 2 and 3. Now I've removed the shuffle feel for now as well, just to keep things nice and simple. You want to be working on this so you just get used to the kind of the thudding of the thumb while you're hearing that melody. Okay, so your fingers are going together with the thumb, in between, together, in between, thumb, thumb, together, in between, thumb, thumb. And you really want to just spend, if you're new to this kind of thing, quite a chunk of time. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just doing that, because we're going to be using this idea a lot through the piece. This is the kind of the crux. This is the bit that once you got that down, you'll find the rest of it easy. So I'd spend a little bit of time on that, first of all. Once you can do it and you've got the in-betweeny part, like the fingers playing, and you feel like the bass is consistent, then you want to add that shuffle back in. Da, 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 da. Da 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 da. You can feel it's different now. If I do it straight, now with the shuffle again. Okay, it's the feeling of the melody that's different. bass is staying the same. Here's straight again. With the shuffle. Feels real different. Now, when you feel like you got that, we do exactly the same thing, but on the A. Now the A, we've got the open A string. Okay, so now, first finger 5th fret of the thinner string, second finger 6th fret of the 3rd string, those two together, then 3rd and 4th fingers both in the 7th fret, upper semitone, upper semitone. Dropped a bass note there somewhere, it's fallen on the floor. But again, this is what you want to be doing, just really slowly thinking about together, separate, bass, bass. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Don't be afraid of doing a bunch of practice on something like this. It's not going to be wasted time. You're programming your fingers and you're programming your muscle memory to be able to do that while you're thinking about other stuff, like what's coming up or what's going on. Trying to focus on the groove. Like long term, you don't want to be thinking at all. You want it to all happen by itself. Just like you don't have to think about what you say, you just say stuff. Same in music, you need to practice doing things over and over and over again so they just start to happen on their own. That's the reason we do this practice, like, you know, repeating things over and over. Practice makes permanent, not perfect, so make sure you're getting it right, but as soon as you've got it right, you want to practice it over and over again as much as you can. So we got one bar of E, one bar of A, and then we go back to the E, and the E is almost the same, but this time we go up and back. 2, 3, 4, slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, you want to get used to that rhythm because it's a little bit different. That top note's held, slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So really recognizing where they're together and separate. Together, separate, bass, separate, together, separate, but then the bass follows immediately after. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. If you want to, this would be a kind of an optional one. You can add here, this is, I'm using my first finger here, you could use other finger choices, but first finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, second finger 4th fret of the 4th string. It's just kind of makes it a nice E9-y kind of a sound. And you can put that the and after 2 in the 2nd bar if you want. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Okay, that would be a nice little thing to practice as a cycle on its own as well. So let's have the first 4 bars of the sequence now, starting on the E chord, nice and slow. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3. To the A, 1 and 2 and 3. 4. Now back to the E with the down as well. Now we're going back to A. Just a little difference there, so same rhythm pattern. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Okay, just giving you another thing to play with there for the A chord. So when we go back to the E this time, instead of going back here, we're going to do it as a closed position. So it's exactly the same as what we just played on the A. Obviously we're going to be playing the E note instead, the thickest string instead of the 5th string. The pattern though is exactly the same. There's the A. Here's the E. Okay, really remember, same notes. You hear it's got a slightly different texture, a little rounder sound there because it's on the thicker strings, but I think it's such a pivotal thing to realize that it's that shape, and where you put your first finger is on the root note is going to give you a really nice sound there. Doesn't work for every string grouping, by the way, but when it goes to the B chord, the B is an awkward one to hold a note, hold a bass note and play it. So I'd recommend going 1, 2 and 3, 4. So playing just, you can either use your thumb or you could use your first finger just to play the note B there, 7th fret on the thicker string. 1, 2 and 3, 4. Again, just to help you break out the idea that it doesn't always have to have that little chromatic step. 1, 2 and 3, 4. Again, getting the rhythm. Just practicing each bit's going to be really helpful. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. Then we're going to go to the A, so you can use the open A for the bass note. Then I thought I'd do something a little different again, just to give you another idea. You could simplify it if you find that this really difficult. You could simplify the A and do it the same as what you did to the B, just down 2 frets. But another variation would be 1 and 2, triplet, 3, 4. So we've got a little triplet. Slide. So 3rd and 4th fingers there on the 7th fret. Slide it up 2 frets and then back again. 1 and 2, triplet, 3, 4, and then you can drop it back a tone. It gives you that nice, it's an A9-y kind of a sound that you get there, dropping those 2 back a tone. So just from the B, 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2, triplet, 3, 4, 1. Now we're going to go to the E. Good way around this one again is just to play thicker string and the thinnest 2 strings. You could play with the first finger there as well if you want, but just as a particularly getting to the next chord, it's going to be a bit easier to play thinnest 2 strings and the thicker string. They're together. Now we've got, it's just such a nice little movement there for a turnaround. That's 2nd finger, the 5th fret of the 5th string, 1st finger, 4th fret of the 3rd string. So we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and just like we had in the intro. 2nd fret, 3rd and 4th fingers, 2nd and 4th strings, doing the little step bass just like we had in the intro. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And then we're back around again. If you look at the sheet music, you'll see in those last 2 bars, there's what we call a first time bar, which is a little 1 and a little kind of a bracket that goes over those last 2 bars. And that's saying if you want the first time through, it's like a gate, and it says the first time you can come in here, and then you'll see a thick line, thin line, and a couple of dots. That's a repeat sign that takes you back to the beginning of the 12-bar sequence, not to the very beginning of the song where it had that intro. It comes after that, where there's a thick line, a thin line, and dots facing the opposite direction. That's where you'd repeat back to. You'd play through the same piece, exactly the same, or you could improvise with it. So if you want to experiment a little bit, that's totally fine as well, of course. But the second time, we got a very, very similar thing. The second time ending, where that little bracket there is with a 2. And that would be more of an ending. And that one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So we've almost the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and. So instead of it being on the here, which goes up to B, we've gone for an E. If you want, you can add this first finger here in the 2nd fret, which gives us just a really nice and E6 chord, just a nice chord to end on. You don't have to add that one in. It's fine to just do that. You might want to give it a bit of a roll, which is where we slow it down a little bit before that last chord. If you want to, you can do a bit of a wobble the headstock round to give it a little bit of juice there. The key things when you're learning a piece like this is breaking it down chunk by chunk. So learning just one little piece at a time and giving it a good dose of repetition, especially this kind of one where you've got one idea that's repeated through the whole song. Like most kind of classical studies use this idea. They have a little kind of a motif or an idea which you explore through the piece. So that's exactly what's going on with this tune. There's a little idea, and if you practice that very first bar over a bunch of times and get used to the palm muting, how much palm mute. Get used to all of the feelings, the techniques. If you get used to it on that and then you add the second bar and you practice those two bars, then you add the third, fourth bars and you practice those. So you're continually building on your thing. After you can play through it, once you've got through the whole song, then you want to practice starting at the beginning, playing all of the way through, but making a note of the things that you found difficult. If there's one section of it that you find harder than any other section. And when you encounter that section, you want to go back and practice that one little bit a few times before you play through the whole thing again. Because if you just keep playing the whole thing over and over again, that weak part will always be weaker than the rest. So you want to, as you're playing through, just make a mental note, oh, I really struggled when I went to the B, or I struggled on this transition, or I struggled with the rhythm of that bit. And then you want to go back and examine that one little bit and give it a good 5-10 minutes, maybe more, maybe less, depends on where you're at and how much it was lagging behind the rest. You want to give it a good dose of practice, then practice through the whole thing again, noting where the weakest parts are and continually going back and touching those up. So let's talk about improvising for a sec. I do think that learning a study is a great way, a kind of a gateway to improvising with a technique like this. As soon as you feel confident with the study, you might want to try just mixing up the bits. So rather than always thinking that you have to go from one particular riff idea to another one, you can just totally mix it up. So you might go E, A, E, A, E, B, A, E. Now, a few things that I did there weren't sixths, but most of it was. That was just me having a bit of a flounder around on trying to keep my mind focused on using sixths and ignore anything else that came along. But you get the idea, there is so much to do. We've really just looked at this basic and the step. I have another study mostly written already, which is expanding it through the whole scale, the Mixolydian mode off of each chord if you want to get super technical. And it extends. This would be E Mixolydian technically, with some chromaticism. And you multiply that by being able to do it in A and B over all of the different chords on all of the different string sets. You got yourself a whole heap of fun. But you got to start somewhere. And this is the thing I want to encourage you to do, is to take this small idea, learn it in a study, see what you can do. How can you twist it to make it your own? Find your own kind of way of improvising with the idea. And then as soon as you feel confident, learn another idea in the blues in the key of E that's using a different tool, a different technique, a different idea. And you can start to blend them together. It's the way I often get asked about trying to mix lead and rhythm together and how you do that. And I think one of the key things is learning these different ingredients that you can put together however you like. And again, I can't repeat often enough, what you're aiming for here is enough repetition that it just happens on its own. Okay, that is just a repetition thing. Okay, thinking about it, being aware of it, focusing on what you're doing, not just like blasé practice while you're watching telly, but being present with what you're doing. I really hope you enjoyed this piece. There's actually a series on the way, so make sure you've hit that subscribe button, slap me a like and let me know how you're getting on in the comments. And also, I'd love to see some covers of you guys playing this tune as well if you fancy it. Remember, the PDF and a Guitar Pro file is a free download over on the website. If you're over on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description. If you're already on the website, there'll be a download button to click where you'll find the files. I'll see you for plenty more very soon. You all take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.